Welcome back to the vlog. We're going to be off at the World Series of Poker, staying at the Paris Hotel. Played in one event, the tag team event. Needless to say, I did not win the bracelet. Lasted about 5 hours before busting out. My partner in the tournament was playing in the Colossus. He did well on day one and was playing on day two. And I'll give you a little spoiler there. He made it day three at the Colossus. Anyway, a lot of our free time was spent with my wife because it was our anniversary weekend. And I managed to get out and play a little poker and hang out with the boys. Anyway, I played 3 sessions, and this video will show all 3 sessions. I didn't vlog a lot, so I only got a couple interesting hands to show you, but I hope you enjoy it. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. My wife and I arrived in Las Vegas. She stayed at the hotel room when I went out with Andrew Locke and Fish Poker. And there were a couple other people in our crew, but I won't mention their names. Anyway, we had a good time at dinner, talked a lot about poker, and we tried to go play somewhere, but the lists were still too long. Anyway, Andrew and I went back, signed up for the tag team event. He was still in the Colossus, had a good run. So here are some of the sights of the WSOP. It was pretty exciting to be there. And I ran into a bunch of people that I knew, met a bunch of vloggers like Brad Owens and Andrew Neeme, Greg Goes All In, Ethan from Rampage Poker. I also met my friend Randy. He's the only person in the card room that can make me look short. He is 7 feet tall. It was great catching up with old friends and watching my new friend Andrew Locke go deep in the Colossus. I also ran into a few fans of the vlog. In fact, this is David. He's a Green Bay Packer fan, as you can tell, but I still like him. After busting out, we met up with Andrew Locke. That's my wife, giving him congratulations for making day 3 of the Colossus. We also met Ethan from Rampage Poker, Kiran from Close to Broke, Erick from Fish Poker, myself. Ethan and Kiran were playing in a nosebleed game, but they took time out for this picture, so thank you to them. So after the tournament, I decided to go over to Resorts World and meet up with some vloggers that were there. And I decided I'm just going to be playing 2-5 and maybe some 5-10 on this trip if things go well. But I'm not used to playing late at night, so this is like at 11:30 at night I arrived there. So you guys are going to laugh, but this is well past my bedtime from when I'm normally playing. So I jump into the game. There are a few good players, solid players that you can tell. There's a few that were kind of mediocre, and then there was one that was given all the action. This particular hand, the action player has a $10 straddle. I opened for 30 with my king-queen suited. The big blind puts in the call, and so does the straddler, and we go 3 ways to a flop that comes out 10 high with 2 diamonds. Both players end up checking to me. I'm going to continue here with my flush draw and 2 overcards. My sizing is $35. Both players end up putting in a call. So the first player, I'm thinking maybe he has a 10. And this player to my direct right could have just about anything. Turn card comes is a good one, is a king of clubs. So now I got top pair with a good kicker and a flush draw. They both check to me. It's time to go for value. I decide on $80. I picked this amount just because I wanted to get called by someone with a 10 perhaps. And if someone has a weaker king, they can come along. But I really think I'm just targeting a 10 here. The player in the big blind thinks for a little bit and then puts in the call for the 80. So naturally, I think he has maybe a 10. Perhaps he has a backdoor flush draw with it. There's a possibility he has a king, but if he had something better than that, I expect him to raise with 2 flush draws on the board. River card comes, pairs the board. I'm thinking, okay, kings and deuces. That's a great hand. I'm going to go for $150. He kind of had a heavy sigh, but flipped in the chip. I showed my king queen, and he rolled over king 10. So he could have got a lot more value out of me there. So another 20 minutes or so went by, and the player to my right is just donking off chips left and right. And one person, she doubled up, lost like $1,200 on a stone cold bluff. One time she had a hand, and like two other times she got caught bluffing. And she puts in a raise to my right, and I just flat, and so does the original limper. So we're going to go three ways to a flop of king 7-3. I do have the ace of clubs, so I have a backdoor flush draw along with my overcard. She ends up betting for $40. And I've seen her bet when she was bluffing, and I've seen her bet when she had something. So right now she's giving me the bet that she doesn't have anything. So I'm not even afraid of the king. I think ace high is good here, and I'm going to call. Hopefully the player behind would fold, but he puts in the call also, which has me a little bit concerned. We go see a turn card, and it is a 10 of diamonds. Doesn't help my hand at all. First player checks. Player to my right decides to bet again. Does the same little tell as before, meaning they don't have anything. And I decided to call. My plan here is to call down with ace high, especially if the board pairs somewhere. The other player folds out, and we're going to the river. And the river card comes as a jack. So we backdoored into the nuts. And they lead again, this time for 315. Again, doing the same thing they were doing before when they were bluffing. So I naturally jam. Hopefully they're going to call an extra $100 to see my hand in this $1,100 pot. But they peeked over at my hand and my stack, and they just fold. But I was prepared to call down with just my ace high. Luckily, we made a real hand. We're starting to lose players left and right. We're playing, I think, five-handed at this point. There was an open for 20, a call for 20, and I just make it 115 with my ace-king on the button. Everybody folds out, and I take down a small pot. I played for about another 15, 20 minutes, and the game wasn't very good. The action player left, and the only thing was left was a couple good players. It seemed like a logical time to go back to the hotel and get some rest for the following day. The next day, I spent most of the time in bed with a migraine. And so this was like 2 days afterwards from playing at the Resorts World. We headed over to the Bellagio, playing their 2-5 game. Was pretty card dead most of the session. Here I had a pair of deuces and decided to try to set mine. You can see how the flop comes out, ace, queen, 10, that it was unsuccessful. All right, maybe I'm going to get some action from this hand. The player puts in a raise, and I got 6-7 suited. I'm going to defend from the big blind. And we're going to go see a flop heads up. Flop comes out. Ace, 10, 5, all red. I have black cards. He bets. I fold. End of story. I'm still extremely card dead. I look down at 10-7 suited in the low jack. I decided to open for 15. I figure my image must be at least somewhat tight. But the player on the cutoff decides to play back at me by raising to 45. He seems fairly straightforward, so I'm putting him on a big hand. Premium cards, maybe an overpair. But I'm bored. I'm going to put in the call, and we see a flop of 8-8-7. So I'm going to check it over to him. If he has an overpair with bet, he checks it back, so I think he has ace high, and I turn a 7 to make a full house. I figure this is a good time to see if he wants to call down with ace high, so I put in a bet for $40. He puts in a quick call. So I'm thinking he has something like ace king, ace queen, and should probably call down. River card comes as an ace of hearts, which is great and bad at the same time, because I think I might lose some action from the ace because there's a possible flush out there. But if he has like ace king or ace queen, he's definitely going to be calling. So I size up to 160. He snap calls right away. I show my full house, and we finally take down a pot. So as you can see, it's been almost an hour, and this is the first real pot I've drug. So I'm very happy about that. On to the next one. And then I look down at the best hand I've seen all day long. I got king, queen suited. So I opened for a raise to 20. It's folded to a very conservative player, who some would call a nit, and he raises it to 85. And I'm thinking, wow, that's got to be a pretty strong hand. Ace, king, aces, kings, queens. And then the player who was in the big blind, who puts in the cold call for the 85. And now I'm really thinking, okay, he knows what I know about this player, and he's putting in the cold call, so he's really strong. So you guys might call me a nit or something, but I'm going to just let this one go because I think I'm way behind. It ends up the player who puts in the original raise had ace king, and the player who cold called had pocket queens. So I was pretty much drawing dead unless I hit a flush or a straight. So even though I've been totally card dead, I'm up a little bit. Here I have ace 8 in the small blind. It gets limped around, so I complete. Flop comes 10-9-3 with 2 diamonds. So pretty good flop for my particular hand. I got the nut flush draw. I decided to check it. Player bets out for $20. The conservative player puts in the call for the $20. I thought about putting in a big raise, but I haven't been making anything, so I just put in the call. It's probably a mistake. I think more aggression probably would have worked the best. All the other players fold out, and we go see a turn card, which is a 5 of spades. Does absolutely nothing for my particular hand. I check, and it ends up getting checked around. So now I'm thinking maybe someone has queen jack, or maybe they have a flush draw. So there is a chance that I might have the best hand at this point, and I might be able to bluff it. River card comes as a 4 of spades. I thought about firing into him, just trying to represent maybe a 10 or a 9, but I just decided to check it. They missed, I got it. They both check, I roll over ace high, and we win a pot. So $80, no pair. I played for about another 30 minutes or so. I was totally card dead, had nothing to play. So I finally just decided just to hang it up for the morning and head back to the hotel room. My wife and I went out for lunch, and then when I got back, I decided to put my name up on the list at the Paris for the 2-5. The 2-5 list was over 100 names long, so it took a while to get in, but when I did, the game was worth it. The player to my direct right is, his name is Jimmy, and he's a super nice guy. And he was in the group photo we took with Rampage and Kiran and Close to Broke and Fish Poker. He usually plays bigger. I'm pretty sure he's very comfortable playing bigger. And I was thinking, maybe I can learn something from sitting next to him. And so I was watching him closely, and I picked up on a few tells, and they were kind of useful. So I found out when he would open light, he did something that I liked, and so whenever he did, I just 3-bet him with whatever I had. And when he had a hand, I would just get out of his way. And then one hand came up between us. He opens for 20, and I can tell that he really likes his hand. I look down at 2 aces. I'm going to 3-bet. I try to make it 65, but I misclicked when I was stacking the chips and only made it 55. Everyone else folds out, and it comes back around to him. He's definitely going to be putting in the call. He does a little thing where he's pretending to count out his chips and figure out whether he wants to call or not. This is one of those weak is strong type of tells. I think he has a very strong hand, maybe jacks, 10s, 9s, or 8s. Flop comes out 10-9 deuce. So yeah, he probably would have got there. He checks it over to me. I am going to continue, and then you can hear some interesting table talk.
Kind of scared, man. I'm gonna make a vlog, bro.
You'll be famous. Or infamous.
Yeah, either. It goes either way, dude.
After a little banter, I'm almost certain that he has pocket 10s or pocket 9s. I even asked myself, if a deuce of clubs comes on the turn, would I feel good betting it here? And my answer was no. So therefore, the only card I'd be willing to bet would be an ace. And if he was to make a move on the pot, I would probably just surrender, unless he used a really, really small sizing, and then I would be too tempted to look him up. So we see a turn card with a 187 in the pot of 7 of diamonds. He checks it over to me. Normally, I would bet this to protect my hand against possible straight draws and flush draws and 2-pair draws and all that. But as stated, I don't think I have the best hand, so I'm going to just check it back. The river card comes is kind of interesting. It's an 8 of clubs, puts a 4-liner on there. So even if he didn't have pocket tens or nines or eights, he could have the pocket jacks. So I said it was a bad run out for me. He says, I had you all the way, and he shows pocket tens. And I said, well, not all the way. I looked down at king, queen suited. I've been in the game for 45 minutes. I'm down about $100. I make it 15 to go. Only the player on my direct left decides to put in the call. All the other players fold out, and we're going to go heads up to this flop with $37 in the pot. Flop comes out is pretty decent for my hand and my range. It comes Jack 10-3. So a lot of the hands I have are going to be 2 overcards in a straight draw, or at least a pair. I lead for 15. He puts in the quick call. Turn card comes as a jack. So I think that if he had some sort of drawing hand that he would give up at this point. If he has a 10, he might not be comfortable calling another bet. I just bet out 25, and he doesn't think too long before letting his hand go. So I think we probably had the best hand anyway with king high, but it's always nice to win a pot. All right, the game's been playing a little tighter, so I decided to mix up my play a little bit and be a little bit more aggressive. So I opened for a raise with 8-6 of hearts from under the gun. I get a call from the player on my left and one from the player on the button. So we're going to go 3 ways to this flop with $52 in it. And the flop is 5-4 deuce. So I flop a double gutter and a backdoor flush draw. I decided to check it just because this really shouldn't hit my range too hard. And my idea was that if one person bet, I can probably go for a check raise representing an overpair. But both players decide that this flop hits them, so I decided just to call and realize my equity. Turn card comes as another very interesting card. It's the 9 of hearts. So now we got a flush draw, a straight flush draw, and we still got our double gutter. I check, the player next to me now checks, and the other player leads for $65. Now I'm thinking he has 2 types of possible hands at this point. I think he either has a flush draw, or he took one off with some random 9 and he made top pair. I decided to call, and if a flush card comes, I'm going to check call. Anything else comes, I think I'm going to bomb it, because I think he's much more likely to have that flush draw. So river card comes, and it is like the perfect card. Besides, the 7 of hearts would have been perfect, but this was pretty darn good. It's the 7 of spades. So I decided to go ahead and bomb it, even though I have the straight. My other thought was to check and see if he would bluff at it. But if I bomb it, it looks like maybe I missed my flush draw. And if he has a 9, he's going to pay off. There's no real obvious straights there. And I go, if he was slow playing something like ace 3 of hearts or diamonds, that would be wonderful. Anyway, he says and shows that he had the ace 4 of hearts, and he asked what I had, and I told him that I had a flush draw and that I was going to bluff the river if it missed. And he questioned that, but as you can see, I had a flush draw and I was going to bet the river if I missed. So I am on the button with 8-7 of hearts, and it is folded to me. I open for 15. Only the big blind defends. So we're going to go heads up to this flop with $32 in the pot. The flop comes out 4-5-6 with 1 heart. So you can't ask for a better flop. Unfortunately, I'm just going, how much action can I get on this? So I decided to bet $10, which is probably a mistake. I should probably still use my same sizing of 15. Player thinks for a minute and puts in the $10. So I'm going, at least I got an extra $10 out of this hand. The turn card comes is a 3 of hearts. So now I pick up a flush draw and there's a 4-liner on board. And I'm going, well, maybe they're going to try to represent that they have a straight because, they're playing out of the big blind. They decide to put in a bet for $50. And now what to do? I got this thing locked up. Maybe I can get them to fire again on the end. I'm not really worried about too much. I mean, what they're going to have, like 2 pair? Possibly. Maybe they're really lucky and they have like some lone 7. So I just put in the call and we're going to see a river card, which comes the 9 of diamonds. So I still got the nuts. And now the player decides to check. And I don't know. I'm not sure what they have. I'm not sure whether they can call a bet or not. But I decided to make this look like I have a missed heart draw and bet big. So I make it 135. I don't know whether this is the proper sizing, but the person goes into the tank, goes there for quite some time before finally deciding on putting in the call. I show my hand, and of course it's good. They said that they had pocket fours and they flopped a set. So it could have been a much bigger pot if either one of us was more aggressive. Ended up cashing out and heading out for dinner with my wife and Andrew Locke. We went out to celebrate his making day 3 and placing very high in the Colossus. Congratulations, Andrew. You're a very solid player and you deserve everything that comes your way. These are my results for the 3 sessions I played. I didn't play very long sessions. It was my anniversary weekend also, so I was spending some time with my wife and just doing the husbandly duties of taking her out to dinner and showing her a fine time. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate your support. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do so. It does help out the channel. Also, I'm going to be making some announcements in the near future about some meetup games that will be happening. One in Central California and one in Southern California, and maybe one at Capital Casino. We're still working on all the details, but when it does happen, I'll let you know. Here I am stuck in the desert somewhere between Las Vegas and Sacramento. There was very little traffic on the road, so I decided this would be a great photo op opportunity. So I sat down in the middle of the road, in the middle of the day, in the desert. Needless to say, the road was quite warm. The trip home was a little long. It took us over 11 hours, but that's because every once in a while, you have to stop and charge up. My wife was really great on the trip. She let me play poker when I wanted to and participate at the World Series. So we're going to take a real vacation, head off for a week to some foreign land and enjoy ourselves. So if you don't see a vlog in the next week, you understand why.